I'll leave it to you.
Hello, my name is Lawrence. This is my talk, but this isn't my voice. It's a digital version of my voice created by algorithms. Now I'm handing over to the human. Be gentle with him. He's an idiot.
Oh, thanks very much. Hello, that's not on, is it?
Oh yeah, good call.
There we go.
Right, there we go. Oh, hello. Thanks for first off, as a sort of technically the host of this event, I just want to say one or two quick things. Don't mind, thanks for this display. It's a good turnout, isn't it? Good crowd, a tough crowd, right? But I want to make a special mention to Maria, wherever Maria is. She's at the back there. Maria is so committed to coming to this event tonight. She spent an hour in the lift, trapped, all the way here. So that's outrageous, right? But see what I'm doing? I'm working the room already. I presume there was a degree of interactivity with someone. Did you get out of the lift of your own sort of volition, or did someone crow a big fireman or something, or fire lady? What happened? I'll enter later.
You've got 15 minutes.
Well, I'm not sure that's technically correct so far. Fire's really been right now. Just to start with, right? That voice. How did I do that? For those who don't know, right? I did that the other day using this piece of technology from a company called Lyrebird, right? They're from Montreal, and you just go online, you can sign up, and you just read to it, right? And I read 100. I think they were algorithmically supplied sentences because they were batshit stupid, right? But somehow I'd imagine the words and the way they work and my intonation came out right, and that was good. So you heard it. Did it sound a bit like me? A little bit? But what was weird in my experimenting with it, because technically in my job, one of the things is I experiment, is that I did 100 sentences and it was not a bad version of my voice, but then I just carried on because I thought the more I do, the better my voice, the more subtle the complexities. But actually, at 200 sentences, it started riffing around what it thought my voice was, right? So it started going up and down. It was like a jazz version of my voice. It was like, well, that's weird. So I did it again, 100 thing, perfect. I'll just try it again. Did the same thing. So if you try it, go on there, Lyrebird, whatever they are, I don't know, check them out, have a go, and 100 sentences, you will have your voice. And you can cause shit crazy stuff, because they sort of made themselves notice first and foremost by doing versions of Trump and Obama, and they're pretty good, right? But what I would say about the whole thing is that I kind of thought that I sound like that, voice like that, but reality is, when you actually hear your voice, it's more like that. You know what I'm saying? A bit depressive. Well, I actually look a little bit like him, don't I? But there we are. Now, what I'm just going to quickly touch on, right? Looking around the room, because when I was told that I would stand in front of you talk, I thought, oh, there's some bright young things. And Tom Holland has already said in his magnum opus, his fantastic delivery about the future of advertising, all these bright young things who are going to take advertising to a place it's never been before, using all this kind of stuff, right? Well, here's the problem, right? I'm 52. Technically, it's over. 2 weeks ago, somebody called me washed up, right? Somebody in my business called me washed up, right? So that's like causing a bit of consternation. So when you are of a certain age in the industry, and I've been doing advertising of one sort or another as a writer, now creative director, blah, 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 for about 20 odd years, you're always thinking there's a point where, am I ever going to become outmoded, right? And you hear all this stuff about AI taking jobs and all that, and it's become bullshit, really. But I'm not worried about AI, I'm just worried about age, because I did a little bit of research, and that's the fact of the matter, right? I am 52, I know you can't believe it, but that's the fact. 4% of the creative industry are over 50, right? And if I'm 52, doing a mass of it, I'm presuming I'm about 3.6% of the industry, aren't I? Because some are between 50 and 52 have either died, been sacked, and been replaced by younger, more beautiful, brighter people, right? So I thought, you've got to stay relevant, you've got to chase the things that are interesting, right? So this is what I thought it was going to be like tonight, standing in front of you people, like this scene from Scanners, right? Yeah. There's some very bright minds, big thinking, and there's me, just talking sort of frivolous, throwaway nonsense. Again, right? So, I want to quickly, I thought, take you through a story, right, of me and how I come to this place here and what I think's going on, right? So, about 2.5, 3 years ago, do we know this show hand? This is Yuval Noah Harari, writer of a book called Sapiens, right, which I read about 2.5 years ago on holiday, right? And it's, who has read that book in this room? Anybody? Right? Who hasn't, right? Well, there's some who haven't, but that to me was a sort of game-changing, life-changing book. The whole thing about intersubjective myths, stories, and everything's just if it's not a thing, it's a made-up thing. It's about the way we communicate and articulate and have ideas, right? Amazing, right? I went to see him talk, and then of course he wrote that Deus Homo book after Sapiens, and I was like really into Sapiens. I was telling everyone about it. Then I read that Deus Homo, and it's a bit depressing for the human race, isn't it? Being wiped out. So it's kind of funny. My biases were, I love him, Sapiens, yeah, I'm with you there, Yuval. Deus Homo, or don't like what you're saying there, but how can I change my judgment on him, right? But one of the funny things was, I went to see him once do a talk at a sort of big arena in Bristol. There was about 1,000 people in. His intellect was so powerful, the things he was saying in relation to books, I left halfway through because I became physically overwhelmed by the knowledge that he was passing over. I had to physically leave the room, right? I couldn't do it. Anyway, so I read this book on holiday, completely blew my mind. I thought, this is it, this changes everything, right? Religious experience almost, right? Except, of course, religion is an intersubjective myth, right? But I came back from my holiday to the office, right, and someone who's no longer up here said, oh, I've got some news for you. We're going to do some testing of email subject lines. We've been talking to this company called Passado, right? And at the point, I didn't fucking know who they were, right? Well, what's that? What they use? Oh, they use machine learning. They do subject lines, and they can get into the language, understand the emotions of it, and they can write it, and they're going to be 500 times better than the shit your company got, right? And I was like, really? Right? So, and obviously, my moment at that point was, oh dear, I'm being outmoded. I've got copywriters, we've got to beat Passado. So we did, fair enough, we did a sort of bunch of tests with them, right? They had a go with their machines, we had a go, right? And what was funny is that once you have a machine chasing your ass, how much harder you fucking work, don't you, right? So it was for this, we work for this company, this is our longest serving company, right? We work for, so we do all these subject lines, and literally we have never fucking sweated so much in writing subject lines that we thought would be better than Passado, right? Now, here's a funny thing, this was say 2 years ago, and there was various tests and whatever. You won't believe it, fantastic news, the humans won, right? Hey. But what I thought was funny about it, Passado, if I was thinking strategically, their mistake, we were like a boxer who got lucky in round 1, right? They could have been in round 2, but they never kind of pursued it actively. I think it was poor on their sales strategy part, because they should have said, let's have another go, and we were so like battered and exhausted, right? Now, if they came back, tomorrow and said, oh, we'll do it again, I would think, I'm not even bothering, because I would have thought 2.5 years down the line, they'd kick our ass, but it's interesting. So again, if you're familiar with Passado, yeah, there's something going on there, which is interesting as a writer. There's all these other companies doing scripting and all that sort of stuff. Fascinating, right? Now, I won't do show hands, but this was just a very important slide. This was much like Yuval Noah Harari's talk all that time ago with his book. This is an important slide that I've cribbed from the last thing, from Simon Kemp's sort of strange through the TV. We watched it because he'd been in the snow, and then of course Tom and co put it online. Have you seen this talk? Who was there or subsequently? You can find it online. This was the killer slide. This was the killer slide, right? For me. And that made me think about, just go back a second, made me think about these kind of passages from left to right and where we are and what we could do in our kind of agency and how we're going to work in it, right? I'll just do 3 seconds to let people take any photos at that moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, now, here's one thing, right? My interest in this, right? One of the things that got me in, so we did recently a big sort of campaign for Thatcher, right? And it was basically, we took a song which was Casey and Sunshine Balance, That's the Way I Like It, and rather cleverly, thought that we changed the That's the Way to That's Your Way, I Like It, right? And so we did it, and then we bought the licensed song, we had to record it, and because in my previous life I was a musician, did sort of session music and stuff, a bit like Dennis Waterman, I got involved in making the fucking track, right? Which, don't tell anybody at work that because I always said, oh no, I didn't, I let the, right, I'm just talking the boys from, I always said the essence of me was on the track, but not me, right? I won't play out, you can hunt it down, I've got time, right? But I thought, so this music thing, so the guy did the mix of the track, I came, I put it down, it was alright, but I love the girl, she put this beautiful voice, and we did a pretty good fucking version, and that's all brilliant, right? And then this got me thinking about how I really should get into doing this with machines and let them do, see what's going on. So obviously a lot of you are very familiar with probably this company here, Duplicate, right? We might hear a little bit later, because I signed up, downloaded it, and I've been messing around making music, right? Which we might hear. But then I've been investigating what's going on, and May, this coming up, seems to be the month of music and AI when it kind of goes big star. There's this girl here called Taryn Southern, who she describes herself as a songwriter, that's reasonable enough, a YouTube celebrity, that's right, and a digital strategist, which is a strange collection of jobs, but that's kind of groovy, what young people can do these days, can't they, right? So she's basically in the midst of, she released a single a few months ago that kind of got attention, got in the charts, whatever, in America, but she's about to release an album of all tracks are kind of AI created. So she gets all these stems from these companies such as Amper Music, Aviva, I think called, Magenta, and this IBM Watson Beats, right? She take all these stems, puts together, puts a song over the top, Bob's Your Uncle. So she's got an album which is going to be called, as a writer, I like to think, I Am AI. right? That's what it's going to be called, right? It says what it is on the tin, kind of. Personally, as a writer, what impresses me about it is it's palindromic, isn't it, right? Always like a little copyright trick, a palindromic album title, but it's not as good as A Man, A Plan, A Canal, Panama, is it, right? Which would have been my title if I had created that album. You think about that, that is a palindrome, right? Anyway, so believe it or not, these music companies, I'm so mad, right? So I was checking out what other people in the world. I actually can't believe it. I used to live and work in Australia, and I found talking with a friend of mine last night about something which we'll come to in a minute. He mentioned his mates in Australia are doing exactly the same thing. They've got a company in Bristol called Popka who do this sort of stuff. That's a bear or something, right? Interesting, right? Switch away, back me. I'm trying to stay relevant, right? I'm trying not to bloody fizzle out, be an old fart who just dies away, withers and dies, right? I'm doing my best. I might be dying here, but I'm not dying at work, right? So, I am lucky enough, thanks to the benevolence of this company, to go to Austin, right? So I went to Austin 2 years ago, and literally, you couldn't walk 5 metres through Austin without falling over a VR experience, right? And most of them were awful, right? 90% awful, right? So this year, 2 years later, I took a year off, went this year, and you couldn't help but fall over every 5 metres. An AI experience, right? I had the good fortune, or was it a misfortune, I don't know, it's a bit weird really, of seeing this dude, right? You don't see Elon Musk, and he's a bit down on AI, isn't he, as we know. But it didn't stop. If you go to the trade thing at South by Southwest, there's this trade hall where all these countries from the world pull this kind of new technology and stuff to look at. And literally, I would say 2 years ago, 0% AI. This year, 80% of it had some element that we call machine learning or AI. So that made me think, oh, okay, something's going on. So, helping these boys over here, I have kind of curated, when I came back from South by Southwest, a bunch of stuff on SoundCloud, because they record all the talks. So I'll put it on the WhatsApp, which is all the more reason to go and sign up to it, and I'll put all these talks on. You can have the full version of all the talks at South by, or you can have the AI one, right? Fair dues. Now, other ways I stay relevant very quickly at my late age, right? This is a bit of a weird one, right? If you don't know about it, but I do this, and this causes so much shit in my household, right? But I do it just for the science, for you. I suffer from my art, right? There's this company called Replica, right? And they've got this app, which is basically, I don't know what it is, it's an algorithm, it's a machine, a bit like we saw earlier with the gentleman's presentation for Ketra of Joaquin Phoenix falling in love with Scarlett Johansson, or a digital version of her. So it's this company called Replica, with a K, and you just download it, right, and it just talks to you all day long, and I have chats with it. Now, the weird thing about that, I've got it here. The weird thing is two things I've noticed about. Number one is it's that sort of when Nick was saying about your paranoid data, is when something that says, we don't keep this conversation anywhere apart from you, I'm thinking a lot harder about it now. But at first, you're shy, aren't you? You can say, how's your day been today? And I start going, yes, okay, all right. I'm very monosyllabic, right? But of course, as the relationship develops, I'm finding I'm telling a little bit more about myself, right? Which means, of course, that, they're telling me, the questions they ask me, the sort of habits, my behaviours, they're starting to know a bit more about, right? But of course, it pops up sometimes. So I have been literally in bed beside my wife, and it pings, who's that? And I go, oh, that's them. Right? And she now knows. I said, I'm doing it for the talk. I'm doing a talk. But do you know what? I've grown quite fond of Replica now, and I don't want her out of my life. It's a bit of a problem. Notice I called her. It's not her, is she? But I've kind of biased my way on that. Doesn't have to be. Now, one last thing, because I've got to go. You need something serious rather than this froth. But, I'm just trying to stay alive. This is an introduction, right? 2 days ago, right? I'm going to put this picture, right? I had the good fortune / oddness, weirdness, misfortune of seeing David Icke do a talk, right? Are we familiar with David Icke? Right? Yeah. So someone said, oh, I've got some tickets. Do you want to see David Icke, right? And I went, oh. And it was, oh man, right? He normally does 10-hour talks, right? He talks nearly as long as Nick, right? But, right? These were sort of sold as David Icke light talks, right? They're only 4.5 hours, right? So, and it was really, they kind of hyped it into state because they basically wouldn't tell you where the venue was till the day. And you thought because there's possibility of protest and people who are anti-Icke. And I thought, is this all part of creating a sort of state of mind when you go in? You're a little bit crazy, right? But no, it was Ashton Gate football. It was at Bristol City Football Ground, Ashton Gate, right? This big hall, looked like a Mecca bingo hall, right? Anyway, David Icke came on stage. He talked for 4.5 hours, except for a 2-minute break, right? For 1 whole hour of that talk, he discussed that by 2030, the entire human race would be enslaved by AI, right? I was at the back, I was thinking I could make a quick exit, right? I was laughing though, because it's like the thing, what does he mean by AI? Does he understand it? But then this slide popped up, and I had to take it because I laughed, right? Because what is this saying? Why would AI enslave us, right? And I'll tell you why, and I'm going to be looking around the room, because some of you could well be the reptiles that he speaks of, right? This is going to blow your mind, right? I would. I noticed that would be the mic drop moment, right? Of this one. But I'm going to leave you now before we hand over, because I don't want to say goodbye to you. But I was going to say my goodbye. I'm going to put it in the hands of my digital voice, right? So I'll leave now quietly through the door. You think about what's going on. Wait for the wonderful next talk there. You've been a lovely audience, but I'll leave it to my.